Welcome to episode 1135 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, February 3rd. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
Not too bad. Bit frozen over here, but we're thawing out in the greater Austin area. Pretty nasty ice storm. You know, hopefully my folks around here don't have power or don't have their power out for too much longer. I know there's some people still dealing with it. I think Jen said up to 200,000 people. We've been very lucky, but all these trees that were downed by the ice, I was telling you right before we started, it's going to get sunny today. Like it's going up to the 50s or whatever. I could go around, take video and picture of today and convince you that a tornado happened based on the devastation of the trees. Like these are massive limbs that snapped off and it was crazy. I think Wednesday was when a bunch of them were falling off. Every 20-30 minutes, these crashing booms that were just like, what was that? And then we'd look out and we'd see another gigantic limb. And we had one in our driveway. We moved Jen's car, and if we had not, it would have fallen directly on top of her car.
Jeez, man.
It was nuts. It was nuts.
Well,
but
I'm glad you're doing okay. I hope everybody in the Austin areas and Texas is staying safe, because man, that's some scary weather, especially considering last time what
exactly
happened.
And we're just not cut out for it, right? Obviously, like I'm not just saying that in terms of like, oh, we like warm weather, but like our infrastructure is not cut out for it. The roads are built to withstand the heat, not the ice, you know, things like that. So it's been rough, but hopefully things start to get back to more normal today. Like I said, it's going to go up to the 50s. A lot of the ice will melt, and hopefully people's power can get restored. Because obviously, if you're without it for more than, you know, a few hours, that's a nightmare. It really is. So I know our friend Dustin McComas, who's in the fantasy industry dealing with some stuff. Thoughts out to him. Hopefully everything's okay. We had some friends come stay with us because they had lost power. But yeah, it's not great. I know that the weather's pretty nice over there, though. 50s in the morning on a February.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's pretty nice right now. We're just having a little bit of rain, which kind of keeps the temperature up. But yeah, it's 46 degrees right now at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like I'll take that,
Terrible.
as opposed to 31 or 32 in my office when I come
And
out and record.
There's your Austin and Bay Area weather report. Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Goodbye.
Yeah. Our casual weather episode.
Casual weather update.
Yeah.
We're talking catchers today. It's about that time to hit the backstop. And it's kind of fitting because you're in a draft right now and you took one of the premium catchers. So we'll do our normal rundown here, going, debating a few guys together, individual questions. Let's start at the very tip top. The SB studs. When you can get stolen bases from catcher, they become quite a premium. And for a while, Realmuto held that mantle on his own, but he's been joined by Dalton Varsho, who had a huge season last year. Now this year shifts over to Toronto, and that's who you took in a draft that you're currently in the third round. So was Realmuto available at the time? Let me ask you that first.
He wasn't available at the third. I almost took him in the second, but
okay.
What I'm trying to do with this one is kind of test my projections now that they're finished. But two, I also wanted a different build than last time. Like I was drafted from the 10 spot. Ohtani was available in the first round.
Could have done all that again, and you're like, well, no, let's see what it looks like, or else kind of what's the point?
Yeah, I was gonna have the exact same team as last time because Realmuto was available in the second. I was super tempted to take him. I was also super tempted to take Tatis. But ended up going a different direction, took an early closer to kind of see how that looked. And so Varsho was, kind of surprisingly available kind of at the back end of that third round. And he was clearly the top player on my board at that point. And I've been a little bit skeptical of that he would end up on a lot of my teams this year because I thought he was going to be going a little bit higher. But I really, really like Varsho in fantasy this year because he's going to play every day in the outfield. I don't think he's going to catch unless someone goes down.
Yeah. I'm seeing some chatter that people still think he's going to catch some. Where? It's Kirk and Jansen. I don't think he catches. I think this might be his last year of catcher eligibility, to be honest, because I'm not sure, barring an injury, that he gets 20 games. behind the dish
Yeah.
for Dalton
I think
Varsho.
I think if Jansen goes down again, then he becomes the backup catcher and does
Sure.
what he was doing in Arizona. But either way, I mean the difference between kind of the top few catchers and kind of the rest of the pool is that there are some plate appearance hogs, guys who can really rack up plate appearances at a position where we don't see that, and then the rest of the guys who are going to be playing halftime or maybe 60% of the time, something like that. And Varsho is one of these guys that not only does he play a ton, I mean, he had 592 plate appearances last year. I mean, I don't think it's unfair to, project him for 570, 560, something like that this year. But he also steals bases. And so, like you mentioned, you're going to get power, you're going to get stolen bases. The average, I think, becomes the real question mark in terms of where he goes. And I think that's the real difference between him and Realmuto is I think you can much easily project Realmuto to have the better average. Not to mention, Realmuto was just the second player or second catcher in MLB history to have a 2020 season.
Nice.
And I think he could legitimately have a 25-25 season with the new base running rules. So
you're not concerned that Toronto stifles Varsho on the bases? Because I'm
not in particular. No, I mean, I don't have him projected for 20 plus stolen bases or anything, but I think 12, 13 seems like it should be well within reach for him. I think
they let him do his thing. I mean, they let their guys that can run, and so I mean he's my number one actually, ahead of Realmuto. I know you have it the other way. Yeah.
Why?
I mean, I got him for 24 homers and 15 steals.
What do you have from average wise?
254.
I think that might be a little bit high.
I mean, he had that's actually a career high. Yeah, it's probably a little high. I just feel like he's going to hit better in Toronto, but maybe not that much better. I think that's fair. But I'm not sure that even if I bring him down, it's going to close the gap, though. And I'm not even anti-Realmuto. I got him for 18, 15, 261.
Yeah, I see. My Realmuto projection's a little bit better than that. I got him for 19, 16, 274. I got his
batting average too low. Yeah, man. I should reverse their batting averages, if anything.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna fix that right now while we're talking. So, Realmuto is your clear number one. You considered maybe taking him in the second again, as you'd mentioned. So you already had him. That's why you didn't take him. But you like Varsho. You're not too worried about the steals output in Toronto. Neither am I. And I'm down to take these guys where they're going, second, third round. I have no issues with that. A quick aside: you did say you considered Tatis in the second. Why? You're not bothered by the shoulder?
I am bothered by it. That's why I didn't do it. But I mean, pick 19. That's a lot of upside at pick 19. I definitely outed him as a first rounder, but I was surprised when he came to me in the second, and I ended up going a different direction. But I mean, I was definitely tempted. I think that's the point in which I'm going to be very, very tempted if I'm in a draft and he falls to me in that second round, just because the upside is so great. But when you're playing,
is pretty substantial too.
And that's the hard part. And especially in NFBC where you have no IL spots, I think it's so difficult to pull that trigger.
And you're going 6 reserves for the first 3 weeks, and I know that might not be the end of the world. I understand that. You can get through that at the beginning of the season with the time missed for Tatis, but I'm nervous. And Jeff's article highlighting the nature of shoulder injuries.
Great article.
It was an excellent article, very well researched, and he even acknowledged, like, hey, he might be an exception. He put that in there, say he's better than these guys. So it's not like a guarantee that Tatis doesn't come back, but the nature of injuries like this is very sad. It's not good at all. So just be careful out there with Tatis. Let's get back to catchers. Is Will Smith a bit overlooked now? I mean, he's not going any cheaper than he did last year. He's going about the same price because, hey, he put up a pretty much similar season to what he did in 21 now. 25 homers in 21, 24 last year, 258 and 260 batting averages, the 71, 68 runs, 76, 87 ribbies. So he did have a ribby boost. That was kind of his biggest difference. But is he just kind of overlooked because of the flash of the two steel studs and then the excitement of the guys that we're going to get into here in a moment, because there's a lot of young catchers on the rise? Is Will Smith just kind of quote unquote boring now as a 28-year-old stud with the Dodgers?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's one of those guys that he's fine. Like, he's never going to end up on any of my teams just because the difference between him and guys going way later than him isn't big enough, because I don't see another step for him. Like, I don't see a 30 plus homer season. The Dodgers have gotten worse offensively around him.
So the ribbies could come back down.
Yeah. Like, what is really the difference between him and Willson Contreras, who goes, almost 50 picks later, or even like Sean Murphy, who goes, 70 picks later? Like, the difference isn't that great where I feel like I should be taking him as a top, 75 player. And
so you're kind of out on Will Smith more so due to others than specifically his issues.
I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I think he is what he is. I think he's going to be fine. I do wonder how many extra plate appearances he gets now with JD Martinez in town and occupying the DH. But ultimately, I think he's going to be fine. I just don't think the difference between him and other guys is as wide as the ADP suggests. So because of that reason, I can get other guys later. And more often than not, I'm ending up with Realmuto or Varsho.
Yeah.
And so
studs anyway.
I don't want to get a third or a second catcher, in the first, 6 or 7 rounds. So I'm more than likely just not going to end up with Will Smith this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, it's really nothing against him. I would still take him as kind of like, oh, I missed, and maybe I still want one of these big time guys, depending on how my map looks for that Contreras area, like you're saying, because I like that. I like Contreras, but maybe, I should specify which Contreras. Of course, I like Willson Contreras. I like Sean Murphy, but maybe I'm looking elsewhere there. Maybe I do still secure Will Smith's services because he is locked in on a quality team, even though they have come down a bit. But yeah, I do think there are some comps there that make him a little bit kind of like, I can pass him here. I will update you, by the way. I now have Varsho and Realmuto pennies apart. I got that batting average down to 245.
Still Varsho ahead though.
Still Varsho ahead, yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Because same stolen base output and more homers for Varsho, and not enough of a batting average gain by Realmuto to overcome that for me. What do you have Realmuto's average at?
270.
That's what I put it at. I just put it at 270. So maybe that still needs to go higher. I don't know. I'm looking at it. And, he's a 275 career guy, 276 last year. He was down to 263 in 21. I don't give a shit about 20, obviously. Yeah. All right. They're going to be even closer because I'm putting his average back up even more. Another update, live updates. Give him another hit here. So I'm at 274. Is that what you said you had?
Yeah, 274. Yeah.
Right, they're 8 cents apart now. 8 cents. Basically 1A for Varsho and Realmuto. Okay, continuing on here with our sheet, we move to the round 5 battle. These guys have firm round 5 ADPs. Obviously, they will go sometimes in the 4th or the 6th or maybe even the 3rd or the 7th. But it's Adley Rutschman, the upstart superstar potential, versus the stalwart Sal Perez, who's been doing it for a whole ass minute. Who do you like better between those two, Adley Rutschman and Sal Perez? And then we'll talk about both.
It's Sal Perez for me. I don't think it's particularly close either. Just because Perez is about as stable as you can ask for. I mean, all he does is, play games and hit homers. I know that there is like some fears, and the fears are warranted around the industry of like, hey, is this finally like the signs of him like kind of breaking down? But he's still had a ton of plate appearances, still hit home runs. I know it wasn't as great as 2021, but
it never was going to be.
Exactly. He was always going to regress back pretty hard. I love Rutschman, and I think he's going to be a fantastic player. But you're paying for that right now, and I think that's wrong. Like, I don't think not only do I not think he's the 4th catcher off the board, I have him as my 6th catcher off the board.
He's my 7, and I consider myself a big Rutschman fan. So, and I already
Yeah.
have him in some leagues. So this was before my projections were done, and maybe I will reconsider that, because despite my facial reaction there when you said that it wasn't particularly close, that's not particularly close for me either. I've
Yeah.
got Perez. I've actually got Perez as the number 3.
I do too. Yeah,
And
I've got him above Will Smith.
I don't consider myself a big fan of his, but when I do my numbers, this is why you do it, right? Because my gut told me, like, oh, Perez, I'm kind of mediocre on him. I put the numbers in. I'm like, oh wait, 30 homers, 256 average. Boom, he's up here at number 3 for Sal Perez.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to like say, like, in a 2-catcher league, 1-catcher league, I'm never gonna end up with either of these guys. Like this, I'm either gonna end up with Realmuto or Varsho, or probably the next year we're gonna talk about is where you're gonna start seeing me take shots on catcher. But yeah, I don't I love Rutschman long term, but that park's not great. I don't know that we're going to see him be quite the plate appearance hog that we're going to see other guys be. And like, I just don't know that we're going to get the big power year from him. Like, I think it's definitely in there. It's going to happen 1 year, but I don't know. And the contact skills are amazing. And I think that's one of the reasons he's up here is people look at the contact skills for a catcher. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he hit close to 300 as a catcher and had like a prime Buster Posey season where, like, hey, maybe he only has 15 home runs, but he gets so many plate appearances and hits 300 that he warrants this kind of draft spot. But I think you're paying for that upside as opposed to, having like, hey, there's some icing on this cake, because there is a conceivable, a much more conceivable outcome that he hits like 270 with 15 home runs, and you're like, oh, I could have gotten that from Danny Jansen,
you're
guys
hoping,
like that.
You're hoping to spike the big season with Rutschman, but it's not guaranteed, like you're saying, and that can present some danger there because we are paying such a premium for Rutschman. Like I said, I'm in on it. I got some shares of him already. It's probably all I'm going to get though, because like I said, once I've run the numbers here, I don't have him as high. It was a little sobering look there because, like you said, 270. I got him at 267, 18 homers, 80 runs, 64 ribbies, and 4 chip-in steals for Rutschman. Hell of a season, but not quite where he needs to be. And catcher's deep. I like catcher, even in 2-catcher leagues. I really like, because there's a youth renaissance there that which he's part of course, but it does kind of have me pushing away from Adley. I'll take the shares I've got in my DCs and move on. Catchers on the rise. Speaking of, you got 2 big ones here, including Perez's teammate, MJ Melendez, who can play some outfield to make sure that he's in the lineup every day. And then Alejandro Kirk, who with Varsho coming in, doesn't really change anything. But the guy who was traded there, Gabriel Moreno, who we'll get to in a moment, helps kind of solidify what's going on there with Kirk as the starter, Dan Jan as the backup. Kirk might get some DH time while Dan Jan is playing behind the dish, but Kirk is kind of ready to go. Is he ready to have the huge breakout? He had a huge run last year, but it kind of supported his season. But I think if you look under the hood there on Kirk, maybe it wasn't as good of a season as some people thought. But who do you like better between Melendez and Alejandro Kirk?
I have them literally right next to each other and 15 cents apart.
Okay, damn.
And I've got Kirk a little bit of ahead. I mean, I think it really comes down to is how you want to build your team. Do you want the batting average from Kirk or the power potential from Melendez? Because there are questions about the other, stat for the other guy, right? I mean, we have questions about how much power Alejandro Kirk actually really has. I also worry about his role with Brandon Belt there, because he's now not going to be guaranteed DH spot when Jansen is in the lineup as catcher. So
that's a good point there.
And that's one of the reasons holding back my Danny Jansen projection that we'll get to here in a little bit. That being said, I think he's got a really, really safe floor. I think he's going to hit for a good batting average. I think they're going to find 500, plus plate appearances for him. Melendez has the opposite problem.
Yeah.
He's going to get a ton of plate appearances. He's, because he can play in the outfield. I mean, the Royals have, like jettisoned like a bunch of outfielders away, and so I think he's pretty much guaranteed 500 plus plate appearances. And I think the power potential is really, really nice. Like, it would not surprise me to see him hit 30 home runs at some point. The problem is with all those plate appearances, that batting average hurts. And so
because that's the big issue with Melendez.
Yeah, so you kind of got to pick and choose your battles there. And that's why these guys are pretty much right below, kind of in the lower tier than the guys we've already talked about, though there is one guy missing from the tier above that we haven't talked about yet.
We'll get to that. So I'm with you on Melendez and Kirk. I don't have a whole lot to add there. I like either. I'm not averse to either of them, but I usually have somebody already, or there's other guys I'm targeting. Let's continue forward in the catching pool and talk about the brothers Contreras, Willson and William, in new homes and in the same division now. Willson going to St. Louis via free agency, William going to Milwaukee via trade. Who do you like better at their price? I'm sure my guess is you have Willson projected higher.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong there. Okay, so you definitely do. But of course, they have a different price. And so you could like one better. Actually, no, they're right. Wow, they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's Willson. It's not comparative, like really, really close. I
put them together, like just because, of course, they're brothers. I didn't realize they were literally 8, 9. They are 20 picks apart, but that's only around. It's Willson for me too. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What are your thoughts on Willson in St. Louis, and then we'll get to William over in Milwaukee.
I think he's just so steady of a player. Like, I know it. I mean, I can pretty much like pencil in 20, plus home runs, a decent batting average. It's a great lineup, arguably the best lineup in the National League.
Yeah, how much Devil Magic did you put into your projection?
I didn't put any. I wanted to leave it out.
Dude. You gotta put some.
It wouldn't surprise me, like, if he had just like his best season as a hitter.
Only partly joking, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it just, you go to St. Louis and you just get like a little bit better.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of Willson Contreras. He's definitely a huge target for me. Especially if I decide like, hey, in this draft, I'm not going to take an early catcher. I'm just going to wait on Willson Contreras and then pair him with someone else, or he could be a really high end C2. Like in this draft I'm currently in, I could definitely see me like pulling the trigger on Willson Contreras, here at some point. Actually, never mind. He already went.
He just went.
So yeah, that's a bummer. Well,
I guess you're not going to get him, buddy.
I'm actually really surprised because Alejandro Kirk and Melendez are still both on the board. But that's, okay, that's how my projections bear it out too. I got Willson Contreras as the 5th catcher.
You're big on Willson. So, what do you got his batting average? Do you think he could do more? It's been kind of like a 240s guy lately.
I have him 257.
Okay, so you got him getting back to his career numbers, going over to St. Louis. I've got him just a bit shy, kind of in between the two there. I've got him with a 249 average. So up a little bit from where he's been, but just a little bit below his career mark for Willson Contreras. But I like him a lot. He ends up being my, let's see here. He's my 7th, but I have a guy that we haven't talked about yet.
He's also the only catcher in the top 10 of my projections that doesn't have 500 plate appearances. So like he's doing all this work without being the plate appearance hog that other guys have, because the Cardinals don't have the room to use him at DH as much as they probably would like to. I don't think he's going to go yachty on him and play like every single, because his defense is modest, right? It's like it's enough to hold the position. I don't think, from what I know, I don't think he's like super dreadful. Can't have him back there, but it's not yachty. Put him down for. It's gotten better from where it was early on in his career.
Yeah,
but
that's how I interpret Willson Contreras too. Yeah. All right, let's talk William then. Joining his brother in the NL Central, as I mentioned, via that Sean Murphy deal. Milwaukee just came in and got a gift. Said, wait, you sure this is all we have to do? And we get William Contreras. And they're like, yeah. Okay, we're in. William Contreras looks a lot like his brother offensively. 278, 20, 45 with 51 runs last year in 97 games. Popped off, threw in 2 chip-in steals. There's a lot to like. What's his outlook in Milwaukee for you, William Contreras?
I mean, I think he's fine. I think he's a diet version of his brother. I've got him projected for 19 home runs, a couple, just chip in stolen bases, a 254 batting average. I do have, again, some concerns that like he's not going to get to DH as much. I don't think they're necessarily going to want him to play the outfield because he's not necessarily very good out there. And so, again, he gets held back by I don't have him with 500 plate appearances. I also don't have him as a top 10 catcher. So I have him 11th off the board. And
Yeah,
pretty
12.
much,
So
yeah,
I'm not against you on that.
and it pretty much comes down to the plate appearances. If I felt really comfortable he was getting 500 plate appearances, he would probably be higher than like Tyler Stevenson, and would sneak into the top 10. But I'm not quite there yet.
Stevenson.
Oh, I knew that's what you were saying. Yeah, I knew it was Stevenson. We'll get there. I love Stevenson, but you're insane again.
No, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I was right last year, and I got unlucky, and I'm going to be right again this year about my boy. All right. Let's continue on. Another new home guy, Sean Murphy in Atlanta. But is there a 600 plate appearances for him? Because you've been talking about this with different guys about do they have enough to get, or they're going to get DH plate appearances for this guy, that guy, and the other. One of the big things that Sean Murphy had last year, despite being on that dreadful team, was 612 plate appearances in Oakland, 18 homers, 66 ribbies, 67 runs, 250 average. Hell of a season, but that was a big jump from where he was the year before with 448 plate appearances. Atlanta, a lot more stocked up than Oakland, obviously. So does he have 30 games at DH there to really boost the plate appearances? That's kind of my concern with Murphy. I don't really see that. And thus I had to bring the plate appearances down. What say you of Sean Murphy in Atlanta?
I mean, I didn't project him for 600 plate appearances, but I don't think they're as stocked up as other teams, especially not at the DH spot. Like they've got Marcell Ozuna there, who has.
What about the other catcher though? Like I know we're gonna we'll talk about him later. So or we could just talk about him now. Didn't I put him on here? Yeah. Does Arnaud play enough to be fantasy viable? Let's just bring that up here and talk about both of them together.
Probably not. Like I don't think D'Arnaud is a guy that. I mean, I guess in 15-team 2-catcher leagues, anybody with a pulse kind of moves into viability.
He was the top 10 catcher last year.
I know.
Yeah, he was top 10, right?
He's not gonna get the amount of plate appearances he needs.
I know that. I'm just saying it's wild that like he was 8 and he could be mediocre. Like he could be nothing this year fantasy wise for like 1-catcher leagues because I don't know if he's playing enough. Do they dare put their backup at DH? I know this is something that teams are leery of doing, but he was a pretty damn good hitter. And like you said, Marcell Ozuna is not, going crazy for anybody. Do you think that maybe that could be an avenue for TDA then?
I mean, potentially. I mean, like I said, Marcell Ozuna, like he hit 200 versus lefties.
Cool.
And you're probably like, oh, that's bad. Well, that he only hit 236 against righties. So like he's just bad. And now he doesn't he doesn't offer any defensive value. I mean, I don't know that he ever offered any defensive value, but and he's got off the field issues that cloud everybody's opinion of him because of his domestic violence situation. Yeah. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if they even just cut Marcell Ozuna at some point. I mean, he's got 2 years left on his deal, so maybe they don't want to eat all of that. But like there's no reason he should be playing over Sean Murphy as the DH. That being said, I just couldn't get the 600 plate appearances for Murphy.
They might not want to run him into the ground either, right?
Yeah.
Because I know DH gives you some time off, but like they might just want to literally get him some time off your feet all day. You don't need to hit. Just
got a lot of money invested. Yeah, I mean,
because they extended him too. So where does Murphy check out on your rankings?
I have him at 9, kind of right behind Kirk and Melendez. And that's 21 home runs. Good counting cats around that.
What do you guys batting average at?
252.
Okay, I gave him basically his career mark of 237. Maybe I should give him something better getting out of Oakland. He did hit 250 last year because I have him at 11, and I don't necessarily agree with that. Like I like Sean Murphy better than that, and I'm looking at it. And I think it's that batting average that I could probably boost.
Everything should play up in Atlanta over Oakland outside of the plate appearances. He's gonna lose plate appearances. He's not gonna lead major leagues for catchers and plate appearances this year. But
the volume and everything else should be nicer.
Yeah, and the lineup around him, the park, everything makes up for that.
Yeah, no, I can get behind all that. I boosted it. I got him at 252. Like I said, I was doing this. I kind of had his career average. I didn't really give him an Atlanta boost. And so there you go, Sean Murphy. I got you a little bit better now. Let's continue forward. Does Tyler Stevenson pick up where 22 left off and stay healthy? There's an obvious answer. It's obviously a resounding yes. Let's move on. He's the best catcher in the universe. Okay, continuing.
I mean, I love Tyler Stevenson.
You don't love him. I love him. You like him.
Yeah. You lust for Tyler Stevenson.
I sure do. Don't tell Jen.
Clearly. Here's the thing. Like, this is going to be weird for me because I now have to like play devil's advocate against Tyler Stevenson, just for this episode. Even though I was just like talking about him in like a really, really good light on the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast on Monday with Dave and Scott Genstad was on, because they were both like, no. And I was like, listen, if they're going to give him 140 to 150 games, which is the news report that came out on Monday.
Can put him for all that.
Yeah, then like he's going to volume his way to being really good. And I still see a potential 30 homer bat inside of that profile. I know we haven't seen it, but he's lost a lot of time due to injury. It's Cincinnati. I think one, injuries are obviously a huge risk for him. And I mean, it's already a huge risk for catchers in general, and especially because he's had concussion issues. That really scares me. On a completely kind of unrelated note, I wonder how much the Reds saying that they want him to play 140 to 150 games reflects on Joey Votto's health. We know that Joey Votto's not expected to be ready to start the season.
Yeah.
And now they're saying they want Tyler Stevenson to play 140, 150 games. We know that's not behind the plate.
Not obviously, all of them,
yeah. Obviously, he can DH some, but I do worry about like Joey Votto is like off my board in a lot, in pretty much every draft at this point, just because I just don't know when he's gonna return and what he's gonna look like when he does. So, yeah, I mean, I like Stevenson. I think you're a bit high.
You don't even know where I have him.
I mean, I do know. I have a pretty good idea that you've got him as your number 6 or 7 catcher.
Fifth.
Your 5th catcher. Yeah, that's insane. Like that's insane.
Okay, but where am I wrong? On 18 homers, 67 runs, 72 ribbies, and a 295 average.
I think the 295 average. I know he hit 319.
That's his career. He's 296.
He's
in an amazing park. Why are all these projections at 260s? I don't really get that low.
I mean, that's where his batting average, his deserved batting average has been. So that's why. I have him at 263. So maybe I'm a little bit low.
I feel like his projection should at least be in the upper 270s for Tyler Stevenson. I mean, he really leans on the park. He has 340 at home, 56 on the road. You know how I feel about Cincinnati's park. I've been talking about it all offseason. It's created most of my favorite picks is due to that park there. I only gave him 472 plate appearances, and he still wound up more because of that batting average. And so, like, I mean, you can say I'm off on the average. It is his career mark. He's not going to fall down much, even if I give him like a 288 average. Like, I'm not going to go that low on the average. This guy continues to hit well. I don't know. I love Tyler Stevenson. I'm gonna be having him.
What do you have him for his runs and RBIs?
67, 72.
Okay, so I think that is one of the spots where we have a big difference. That Cincinnati team is not very good.
I know.
And I've got him for 58 and 63.
Those are just his career marks, though.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Obviously, if my boys Fraley and Myers and your boy Friedel are popping off, then he's going to be getting those marks. I mean, Kyle Farmer drove in 78 last year. Brandon Drury scored 62 runs with them in 92 games. I stand by it. He's my guy. I'm
What pace is that for Brandon Drury?
well, a lot over 100.
Yeah, over 100. That's right.
And what was that in relation to?
You got mad at me for what my projection was
For which player though?
I think runs on India, maybe, or maybe.
Oh yeah. I think it was
Yeah.
that, because he's the only one I could think that you would have that high, because none of our outfield guys that we like were projecting to have that many runs.
TJ Friedel season, baby.
I know you're excited about Jake Fraley. There's room for both. We don't even have to be against each other. Friedel and Fraley.
I'm gonna build a team. Like, I know everybody's like pushing up outfielders, but like I'm gonna build a team, and it'll probably have to be in an auction where like I have a full outfield of just like scrubs that I love,
like single digit guys.
Yeah, it's gonna be Brandon Marsh and TJ Friedel and Jared Kelnick, and I don't know who the other.
Well, they'll give you money back to take
Yeah.
Kelnick. You get like he gets -4. You get a $4 rebate.
Maybe in like
if you put him on your
Morris,
roster.
I'll build a $5 outfield, or something like that. Like and
like
just
it.
like load up the rest of the offense.
It'll be fun to see you finish last with that. That'll be cool.
Thanks.
All right, so Tyler Stevenson is absolute god. I got him 5th. I'm holding firm because I don't even think these projections are crazy. I'm gonna go higher on these projections if y'all keep pushing me. Are you buying the Cal Raleigh hype, or is he switch hitting Mike Zunino, as I've coined? I like him. I want him to be good, but I look at that and I'm just like, he's got that 198 batting average potential. So he hit 211 last year, 27 homers, big dumper, popped off. What do you think about Cal Raleigh?
I mean, I have him taking a pretty decent sized step up in batting average after last year, from the 211 that you mentioned to 216.
Whoa, relax. Relax, man.
I also have the power coming back down a little bit.
Yeah.
Not because I think he's bad or anything, but
no, that's just a crazy pace.
27 is like ridiculous. So I've got him for let's see, I got him for 22 home runs in 460 plate appearances. Yeah, I mean, I think he is who he is. I think he's a fine power source that's going to hurt you in batting average.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult for me to want to end up with him because I kind of prefer a guy with a high batting average and lower homers, because like the difference between a guy who hits 15 homers and a guy who hits 22 homers is not
7.
The difference.
Did that in my head.
Yeah, it's not the same difference between a guy who hits 265 and a guy who hits 210.
Yeah. And so, that average can hurt. At catcher, it's not going to hurt you as much because of the volume. I grant that. But again, I think he's got sub 200 average potential. I want to root for him. I like Cal Raleigh, but he strikes out a ton. I don't know if there's going to be improvements there necessarily. I think there is some stuff on him with regards to the shift and how, he didn't hit well against the shift. He's a switch hitter. So I guess I would imagine when he was batting lefty, he got shifted upon, and maybe with the changes, he can get a few extra points of batting average. He did have a 226 BABIP, but he's kind of that all or nothing guy. And I keep going back to Zunino on this, right down to the fact that he's a good catcher too. Like that's not a stone cold diss on him. Mike Zunino's had some damn good seasons, including one that burned me. Fuck you, Dusty. I know you're listening. But look at some of the batting averages that we've seen out of Mike Zunino as well. He's a career 200 guy. He's been under 200 in 19, the partial season of 20, and of course last year for his 36 games, as well as 14, 15. He had 207 and 20, and he even played in Seattle, right? So the comps they're just pretty easy there, outside of the switch hitting. So he's switch hitting Mike Zunino for me. I like Cal Raleigh. I'm rooting for him, but he's not going to be on my teams.
Yeah, not going to be on mine either.
Would you rather have this guy than you mentioned? You'd rather have a guy who can hit for some average, but maybe doesn't have as much power. Is Keibert Ruiz your guy? And is he ready to break out? Because it was kind of a ho-hum season last year. We didn't really get the batting average. For a catcher, 251 isn't too bad, but I know that there's expectations that he can be a 270 plus kind of guy, puts the ball in play a ton. Only had 7 homers, but did steal 6 bases. So he was okay. I want to say he was like 20th at catcher last year. I was looking at it this morning. I don't have it off the top of my head. 20th, nailed it. Is that enough? Are you thinking there's more for Keibert? And can somebody tell me how to pronounce this goddamn name, because I say it wrong?
I believe it's Keibert.
Keibert. Okay. Keibert Ruiz. Is there a breakout coming for him at age 24? He's still young, by the way. So if you missed on the hype or if you thought he was overhyped last year and he didn't pan out, still plenty of time. But what do you think about Keibert?
I mean, I think there is like progression coming. I don't think there's a breakout coming necessarily. I think, and this is a prime example of people who use StatCast data incorrectly, or use it to wish cast, because there's some people who are like, oh, look how hard he hits the ball, and and the contact, like
It's
all he's got to do is
style, right?
yeah, exactly. Like it's so much easier to hit the ball hard when the ball is on the ground, right? Like, and so I think he's one of those guys, like, if he does raise the launch angle, I don't think he's keeping the power that goes along with that. And so I don't even know if he wants to raise the launch angle that much. I do have him for, 11 home runs, which is, fine.
The projections are all double digits too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, as high as 15 from Steamer in 459 plate appearances, which is only 26 more than last year.
Both
ATC
the bat and the bat
13,
X, yeah.
bat and bat X got a 12 and 11 respectively in 467 plate appearances. So, and you said you have 11 too, so I'm not arguing against you, but it's like there is some love for his potential power there for Keibert Ruiz. Or wait, Keibert? Well, I literally forgot what you said.
I think now you have
now
me.
I've confused you.
Yeah.
There you go. My bad. But he had a
Keibert Ruiz.
Keibert Ruiz. He had a 6% homer to fly ball rate. Tim Kanak will get me on the pronunciation. He always helps me out. 6% homer to fly ball. Maybe he doesn't even need to necessarily raise the launch angle, but just more of his fly balls need to go over the fence. And then that's how he can get his power stroke going. Because he did have a 37% fly ball rate. That's not egregious. That's not totally Yandy Diaz style. So maybe there is some potential at like chasing down 14, 15 homers, which would be 3-4 more than you have projected. That could be pretty good for Ruiz.
He also had an 11% infield fly ball rate. So like a lot of those fly balls
he got
were
right
infield.
Under.
Were infield fly balls.
Good call.
I mean, I just don't see the big breakout. Now, what I do see is a guy with an extremely safe floor. I mean, he is elite plate steals, not just for a catcher, but just in general.
Just full stop, yeah.
And so when you put that at catcher, you start going, okay, like at worst, I'm going to get a good batting average. And I honestly think my 264 that I projected is super conservative. Like I could easily see him hitting like 280. It would not shock me at all.
I agree.
He's the diet version of Adley Rutschman, which I guess is my new theme this year.
Of diet versions of people.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a lot of fun to do that though, because it's, like why pay for this when you can get this type of thing?
Yeah.
And you're hoping to get that person to play their best, and then all of a sudden they become the full sugar version of that player. And that could happen. Obviously, Adley has a much better opportunity. By the way, that comp works really well because they're also both switch hitters.
Yeah.
So there's you're really going with that comp there on Keibert. I'm calling him Keibert, that little character from the video game. He's Keibert now for me. That way
I want to call him Keibert because it's close to Dilbert, which was one of my favorite cartoons or comic strips growing up. Yeah.
It was pretty funny. And then the guy's kind of loony, unfortunately. Gabriel Moreno, mentioned him when we talked about the Varsho trade. He was in that trade going to Arizona. So they did get another guy who can catch in Varsho, but it did clear up some of their log jam there with Jansen and Kirk now taking the reins. We mentioned that we don't think Varsho is going to catch. Moreno goes to Arizona. Is he ready to be the guy? Is he ready to rock and go crazy in Arizona? Gabriel Moreno.
No, I think he is kind of like the diet version of Keibert Ruiz. So I mean that's a
Coke Zero version now.
Yeah, the Coke Zero version of Rushman.
Yeah,
I really like the plate skills and potential, but I really don't think he's gonna get to like 400 plate appearances in Arizona. They seem to just really like Carson Kelly.
He's a pretty good catcher, right?
Yeah, and so I think they're gonna, especially first year, first full year at the majors. First year in Arizona, I think they're going to be careful with him. I think Arizona is really looking towards 2024 as like the beginning of their window to open up. And so like, I do think they're going to play it a little more conservative with him. I don't think he's going to get to 400 plate appearances. I don't think he's got enough power without plate appearances to really matter in fantasy, especially with how deep catcher is this year. So yeah, he is much lower on my my ranks than.
Where does he rank for you? Because I
Hold
agree with.
on, let me scroll down.
Oh my god!
I have him at 33rd at catcher.
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah.
Okay, give me the plate appearances then.
315. I have him for 6 home runs and a
Okay.
273 batting average.
Okay, so what's the runs and ribbies then?
33 and 33.
Okay, that's what does it. Because I was like, we have virtually all the same on those first 3 categories. I got 42 and 51. That might be too high, which I didn't even think was that crazy because he's my 16, and I'm not even like some Moreno stan. That's just. I think it's the batting average that gets him.
You know, unfortunately, he's right-handed, and so you have a really hard time getting him like above 6th or 7th in the batting order when he is in the lineup. And like I said, I don't think he's even going to be the main catcher.
You know what? These might be Toronto influenced.
Yeah.
I might have done it when he was still on Toronto.
Because he's not going to bat above Kettle Marte or Christian Walker. And so the question becomes, well, can he bat 6, above Lourdes Gurriel Jr.? I mean, he could, but maybe. I don't think he will.
Your double 30s are in line with the projections, and they have the similar plate appearances. And even though I have a few more plate appearances than you at 343, it does not merit 42 and 51. So I do need to make an adjustment there. I can do it. I can do it right on the fly here. We'll see.
I've got him. Yeah. Did I say 33? I think I said.
Yeah, you said Moreno 33. Keibert Moreno.
One spot behind Jonah Heim.
What is your problem? What is your problem? Don't look at me like that. If you're watching the video, he knew.
That's what we call a transition.
That's what we call
I have a perfect transition to our next topic.
Who's your AL West favorite between Logan O'Hoppe? And I don't know if it's O'Hoppe or O'Hoppe, but I've heard people say
it's O'Hoppe, I believe.
I think it is too, but I've heard O'Hoppe, so I don't know. And Jonah Heim, who you've slandered. Oh, pronunciation, O'Hoppe.
Oh, O'Hoppe. Okay, there we go.
To B-Ref. Hey, shouts to the folks in Arizona who put me on that. I wasn't sure if it was correct. I was still a little distrusting of them. I don't want to name names, but hey, they knew better. They're prospect folks. They know better. So O'Hoppe or Jonah Heim.
I don't want either. O'Hoppe I really like, and I have taken him in some early DCs, but I don't think he's making the team at this point.
Thank you. Yeah.
And they were flirting with Gary Sanchez a week and a half ago, so I don't think they're necessarily out on that. Both, I guess Stassi has one option left, but
it's between Theis and O'Hoppe.
Theis is out of option.
Exactly. So, and it was in Mining the News from January 23rd that O'Hoppe might start the season in the minors. I think that's jarring to the folks that are really in on him. You might be careful there because he might not break camp. And if Theis comes in and does something, I think it might just be a straight up camp battle between those two.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually may even lower his projection a little bit more, but at the moment I have him as my number 26 catcher, which means I'm probably not getting him already. And if I lower it, he's going to drop outside the top 30. I just have no real interest in him.
Rookie catchers, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Not a fan in general already.
Exactly.
What the hell's your problem with Jonah Heim?
Did you see his second half?
You're overrating the second half. Yeah, I already knew.
I mean, and I'm not saying that's who he's gonna be.
Well, it was like a sub 200 BABIP or some crap.
Okay, but I mean, you
painfully unlucky.
He was painfully lucky in the first half. You can't say he was painfully unlucky in the second half and not point out the fact that his first half BABIP really did a lot of the lifting.
And 284. That's not that crazy.
I mean, what's his career BABIP?
I have no idea.
Give me a second and I will find it. His career BABIP is 233. Okay. So 280 is kind of
if you believe
his career.
Okay, you say career. I mean, he had a
I'll just
285 games.
Just last year, his last year's BABIP was 249. So 280 is crazy for him. I do think it comes back down to or I think it is just generally what we saw last year, which is fine. I think what we saw last year is fine. He's a guy who doesn't hit for a great average, will hit 15, ish home runs, 50-ish runs, RBIs. All of this
How is
stuff
that
is
32nd amongst your catchers then?
I have him for let's see. I have him 15 home runs. Oh, I see what the issue is.
I'm for 16.
I have a mistake.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna have to fix that. Give me a second and I'll fix that.
I will talk about Jonah Heim properly while you fix your mistakes. I knew there had to be a mistake because that's crazy. So look, Jonah Heim, strong start, rough finish. Very, very rough finish there. I'm not going to deny that with regards to what happened to him. I'm trying to find an article that I wrote back in November. Okay, so he's pacing toward a hell of a season before the bottom absolutely fell out in the final 2 months. Sure, some of it was regression, but he hit 157, 244, 286 from August on with a comically low 167 BABIP. I'm reading directly from my article there. Even as a fly ball pull hitter, a rough combo for BABIP, that's nuts. And it feels like small sample bad luck, as both his strikeout and walk rates were incrementally better in the ugly stretch. The fall off paired with a catching boom has pushed Heim down to the 18th catcher off the board, a price I'm more than willing to pay, as I think he's a top 15 catcher with top 10 upside. And I'll give you my projection here for Heim. I got 407 plate appearances with 16 homers, 47 runs, 50 ribbies, and a 242 batting average. Nothing too crazy. He's actually my 16th guy. So I said top 15, although I actually have, well, he's basically tied at 15. They're pennies apart, he and Christian Vazquez, if you want the batting average of Christian Vazquez or a little bit more power from Jonah Heim. So I'm in on Jonah Heim. I do think there's breakout potential here, and I'm a big fan. What was your error, and have you fixed the egregious?
I have fixed. I only had him for 17 runs.
Oh,
there was clearly a huge mistake.
Even if you don't like him, that's a little bit.
Yeah, that moved him up to the 16th catcher. So
okay, there we go. So we're in lockstep.
Yeah, so I apologize to Mr. Heim. And now I got to do a mea culpa on the site because I posted my ranks there and like defended. Like I was like, "Did you see the second half?" But
I get off me with the second half, and they're like,
"Yeah, my numbers were clearly. I meant to put in 47 runs scored and put in 17 runs
there
scored.
You go.
That's a huge difference. So,
that's quite a difference there for Jonah Heim. All right, let's continue forward here. We're almost done. Anything left in the tank for Grandal?
I don't know.
I don't know. Are you drafting him? Because
his price is so good. And supposedly he's entering the season healthy for the first time in a couple years. And I'm ready to be hurt again just because the price is so good. Like it's just so good. And we know he's going to play a lot. Like I'm totally fine with drafting Grandal. I'm also totally fine and completely missing out on him.
Yeah, I am too, but he's the 20th catcher off the board. I'll take my shot on Grandal, at least in a league or two.
The upside is so good.
There's still some pretty big upside. Do you prefer the power of Eric Haase or the average of Christian Vazquez? I think that's kind of the decision that you're making between those two at that pick range.
Neither. I mean, I guess Vazquez. I guess I prefer the higher floor, but
yeah, based on what you said earlier.
Yeah, neither are very good. I mean, I'd rather, I guess, have the guy who doesn't actively hurt me in a category than helps me really in any category. But like, I don't want either of these guys.
In fairness to Haase at 254 last year, I was pretty cold on him. I really didn't think that he would find much playing time, particularly in the outfield. He played 84 games at catcher. He ended up catching more than I thought too, but then 13 at DH, 11 in the outfield, and put up a decent season. So congrats to those who stuck with him. I was pretty out.
I mean, I got Haas higher in my ranks.
He's 29. Oh, well.
So I guess I prefer. I can't even find Vazquez.
I think Vazquez is going to be fine. I put him for 268, 10 homers. Like, he's a good catcher, so he's going to play too. And I think he's like he's an okay hit. He's boring. He's absolutely boring. Remember a couple years ago.
Never mind. I have Vazquez 17th in my ranks, okay. And Haas I've got 32.
Maybe 10 homers is a little too high. He's been mostly a single digit guy, but whatever. I mean, it's not crazy.
I got him for 8 home runs, but I also have him for.
I just bounced him to 8. but I gave him
You know,
it's his batting average.
the difference, I think he's the start of, like, the difference. The difference, I think he's the start of, like, the crap tier, and the crap tier, like, goes the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Like,
What's your batting average on Vazquez?
255.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little light. He's a career 261. I gave him a 268.
I think Minnesota
That
hurts.
stabilizes him.
Minnesota is not going to be good for his batting average. Like, that's not a good park to hit in for average. So I don't think so.
I was like, okay, I don't know. I think he can hit there. Again, I'm not gonna go to the mats for Christian Vazquez.
He's going from a Boston team and a Houston team
Didn't do well
to.
in Houston, unfortunately.
I know,
He
but
really sputtered there.
so, but yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, actually with Heim moving up, he'll be my 18th catcher.
You're right. 27th and 26th in overall park factor the last 3 years for righties. Their hit park factor is 24th with a 96 mark. So that's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe I shade a few hits off there, get him closer to low 260s. I'm still going to go 260 something though. So
yeah, I'm being conservative for sure, but he's like I said, he's in the drunk drawer at catcher.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, put him right at 260. That'll lower him a little bit, but I still think with the dollars that he had, yeah, he flops spots with Grandal, and now Vazquez becomes my 17, which I think was where you said you had him, or 18 when Heim moves up. Does Mike Zunino being in Cleveland stifle the Bo Naylor breakthrough that some people are excited for? Kind of a bummer, right? If you liked Bo Naylor.
Yeah, and for those who are like excited about Bo Naylor, I would like to use Reese McGuire and who are the other guys they've had a catcher that just sucked? Austin Hedges as like the example of like they don't care about anything but defense behind the plate.
That's why they got Zunino.
Not to say that I think Naylor's going to be bad defensively or anything like that, but
Roberto Perez is the other guy.
Yes, thank you. Roberto Perez was the other guy. Like they will literally run out like a 180 batting average, which is what they'll probably get from Zunino. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but unless there's an injury to like Josh Naylor, which is always in the cards, I think Naylor, has a limited role in that lineup. But like, yeah, if Naylor were to get hurt, maybe he could DH some.
If his brother, you're saying, if Josh were to get hurt, Bo.
Oh, sorry, yes.
I didn't
even think about yes. If Josh Naylor got hurt, then Bo Naylor could play more.
Could take some of that time, and that is true. I think we could see some of that. But yeah, if you really liked Bo Naylor, sorry. Again, DCs where you need like 3-4 catchers at least anyway, you can still take them just in case. But Zunino really does cramp that style because he's the next in the Hedges Perez line of defense first, defense only type catchers that they're interested in. And we'll end with your guy in San Francisco. Any upside still for Joey Bart in his second year as the starter, by the way. It's more than 2 years playing. He played a bit in 20. He actually missed most of 21. And then past year was essentially kind of his rookie year. 97 games. He was the guy. 11 homers, 215 average, though. Anything for Joey Bart?
Yes. I mean, I can see a world in which Joey Bart figures things out and is, a top 10, top 15 catcher.
Really? Okay.
However,
I say really, I'm not fully against you on that. I'm just saying that's nice. That'd be pretty robust.
I also think the chance of that happening is around like 3%. Okay. Like, here's the thing, like, he murders fastballs. Like, you throw him a fastball, he's going to murder you.
Clock that.
He cannot hit off speed or breaking stuff. And that's a massive problem. Like, I don't think the park is the biggest issue for Joey Bart. I think it's secondary pitches, which is not like a good sign. So like I see massive upside. They could see a guy who, hey, I think he get for average. I think he get for hit power. I think he's a good enough catcher, and the Giants are bad enough where he could get plenty of DH time if he could show like real improvements against off speed and breaking pitches. But until he does that, I'm probably not going to draft him. So I mean, that's not true. Like, I will take him as a C3, but I think you usually have to draft him as a C2. So ultimately, I'm probably not going to end up with a lot of Joey Bart this year. Maybe the occasional share here or there, something like that. But
yeah,
I think such deficiencies.
I think that's fair. And again, DCs, which is what we're doing right now, you need multiple catchers. If he's your third or your fourth,
Yeah.
I think there's some potential there, but don't go too crazy
NL
with it.
only.
Yeah. Any shouts for anybody else here as we wrap up?
I like Nick Fortes,
I
but
figured
there's
that was coming.
serious questions about his playing time.
I was gonna say he's got
Um,
the Cleveland issue, right? Where they have Jacob Stallings, who's a great defender, but that's it.
yeah.
And that kind of keeps Nick Fortes stifled.
Same with Luis Campesano.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the exact same issue with Austin Nola
Yep.
in town, but I think this is finally the year he gets 300 plus plate appearances at the major league level. So
I got him close to that. Yep.
yeah, that should be somewhat interesting. Andy Rodriguez, I have a really hard time with him because his projection is really nice,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know what the plate appearances look like.
Yeah,
Because
I was gonna bring him up too, but they got Hedges now.
yeah,
So now
with
they
that,
can do the thing where they
and I think
favor.
they will, because what Pittsburgh has done over the years is and we saw this even last year with like Roansy Contreras. They care way more about service time than they do about like any potential reward for a guy like being good early on in his career. So like I
Well,
don't know that we even see Andy Rodriguez until mid-season at the earliest.
it could be because and they had Roberto Perez too. So they
Mhm.
like catcher defense, kind of going back to what we're talking about. So now they have Hedges. They're just following Cleveland's path. If they get Zunino in 2 years, that will be hilarious. But they got Hedges there. They got Tyler Heineman as a non-roster invite. I don't think that they want Andy Rodriguez to come up and just be the backup though. So it's
Yeah.
I know Tyler Heineman is not jumping off the page at anybody. But there was only also 6 games for Andy Rodriguez at AAA last year. There's in 31 at AA, and he was brilliant, by the way, at both stops. I know the one is a 1 week stop.
We didn't talk about Danny Jansen. You didn't
Oh
have him
yeah,
on
we
the
did skip
sheet.
Dan Jan. My fault. And I love Dan Jan, so I really sold him short there. My bad, Dan Jan.
Just and we don't have to go in super big depth. I know Jason's a huge fan of Jansen, and I am too, from a
Me
straight
too.
skills perspective. Well, Brandon Belt being in town really hurts his ability to rack up plate appearances, which is my biggest concern right
But
now
he's
with
so good
Jansen.
defensively. Although apparently
Somebody has to lose plate appearances.
there's a better outlook on Kirk. Well, you know who's going to lose plate appearances, right? Brandon
Is it?
Bell. He'll
I
be
don't.
on the IL.
They gave him a lot.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying because he gets
yeah.
hurt. I'm goofing and gaffing.
I just think, yeah, I mean, I had a really hard time getting Danny Jansen to 400 plate appearances, and I didn't. I think he's going to be really, really good in the plate appearances he gets, but I really struggle getting him to 400.
I wanted him to get traded, man. I really wanted him to get traded to Houston. I was like,
He's a free
wish-casting
agent at
shit
the
out
end of the
that.
year, so he'll be on a different team next year where he should potentially could play more. His second half was amazing,
Mhm.
and I buy into a lot of it. The problem is, he kind of sits behind guys with lesser skills like William Contreras and Cal Raleigh, because
I agree.
I just can't get him to 400 plate appearances. But it's a really, really good 374 is what I got.
Dang. Yeah. I like Dan Jan. I might have to reassess a bit because I do have him with a decently high plate appearance projection, and it's probably too high because of what you're saying. Dang. God, I like Dan Jan. And I was drafting him a bunch again, kind of wish casting that trade. I'm like, oh, trade him to Cleveland or Houston. Well, yeah, Cleveland would never trade for him because he's a free agent in a year, but Houston, I thought maybe could get a discount on him, maybe because he only has the 1 year. But they traded Moreno. It's kind of cleared up what they want, because they don't want to only have one catcher, right? They're not going to then trade Kirk and then Danny Jansen has to be the guy. They're fine with what they've got right now, and Varsho as like a nice third emergency type guy. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be tough. If Bell can stay healthy, it's going to create a lot of complications. He has not shown that he can do that a lot in his career. Maybe we could look at what kind of lefty situations are going to be in the AL East. I know they're not going to play as many games there, but if there's a lot of lefties, that will create an opportunity for Kirk and Jansen to play at the same time, but probably not enough to completely flip the concerns on Jansen's playing time.
Let's see. The Yankees have 2
I'll look up
lefties
the
in
Red Sox.
Cortez, and then Baltimore.
Red Sox have Sale and Paxton, but both those guys get hurt a lot.
Baltimore just has 1 lefty.
McClanahan and Springs.
Yeah. Tampa's got 2. So it's not great necessarily, but it is a more balanced schedule, so we're gonna see. And like I said, like Brandon Belt like doesn't stay healthy.
That could clear all this up in a second,
so
right? But it kind of goes
he's
back to what I
also
said.
DHing full time. So
Yeah, and it also goes back to what I said though about like, do you want your backup catcher DHing all the time? Because I guess with Varsho that would help alleviate some of that concern, because then if something did happen, you've got a catcher right there in left field that you could bring in, even though he's a bad catcher. So we'll see. Be careful with Dan Jan. I love him, but Danny Jansen does have some playing time concerns that Justin underscored.
I still have him as my 13th catcher. Like I'm not low on him. I just don't see the massive breakout other people have been projecting because I just don't know where the plate appearances come from.
And that's totally fair. I'm lowering his plate appearances down, and it's going to move him to. What did you say you have him?
I have him 13th.
Yep, we're tied now.
Yeah,
I had him 11th, shaving off plate appearances, moves him to 13th. All right, that's the catchers. It's a pretty fun position now. There's a lot of talent there. Be careful with those rookies, though. Rookie catchers, they don't have a great track record. You know the old adage of like, they come up, defense first, focus on defense. We don't care about your hitting. Then you can hit later. There's exceptions. I think Adley is an exception. He's a generational type guy. But some of these other guys, I don't think so. Like Hoppy, for as an example specifically. And
I coined I changed your old podcast name Tinstep to Tinstack. There's no such thing as a catching prospect. So.
Sounds like you had a hiccup burp at the same time. Anyway, Justin, I got to get going. Hope you have a great weekend. You talking with Jason on Sunday?
I am.
Who are you talking with?
This week is actually DFS Moonshot. So
excellent.
And he's going into some season-long content as well. So we're gonna have a good podcast. It'll be a lot of fun.
Sounds wonderful. Until then, I'll talk to you on Monday. Have a good one.
Take it easy.